What we've been looking at is a trip to the moon. It's an illustration from a book by Jules Verne written in the last century, long before such a voyage through space was even conceived of as possible. Reality has more than once been foreshadowed by fiction. But here, just for example, is something that goes beyond, far beyond, anything we might ascribe to mere coincidence. In 1898, a little-known author named Morgan Robertson wrote this remarkable piece of fiction about a luxurious ocean liner, larger than any ship existing in its time, filled with wealthy passengers and a rich cargo. But on its maiden voyage, this ship, labeled unsinkable, struck an iceberg one starry April night and sank in the cold waters of the North Atlantic. Now, 14 years after this book was published, a British shipping company, the White Star Line, built a vessel of almost exactly the same dimensions as those imagined by Robertson in his novel. It, too, boasted a list of wealthy and famous passengers and made the audacious claim of being unsinkable. And one starry night in the North Atlantic, one April night, April 14th, 1912, it struck a giant iceberg and vanished beneath the seas. Now, the similarities of size, speed, and fate are truly incredible. But the most startling parallel of all, Robertson named his fictional ship the Titan. Its real-life counterpart, as we all know, was the Titanic.
dead ahead, sir.
When the Titanic went down, nations around the world were stunned. It became known as the worst maritime disaster in history. Millions of people lost confidence in technological progress. No other modern event has inspired such a steady and overwhelming flow of books and novels and poems and songs and movies, lost in the depths of a dark and frozen sea. It's captivated the public imagination for decades, and now has inspired a daring team of scientists and explorers to launch an unprecedented expedition of historical discovery. At the renowned Explorers Club in New York City, this incredible expedition, more than 5 years in the planning, receives best wishes and words of wisdom from famed radio commentator Lowell Thomas.
And of course, I told about the sinking of the Titanic, which was one of the major naval disasters of all time.
Expedition leader Michael Harris announces dramatic plans to search for and locate the great ship Titanic, and then to actually film the famous vessel as it lays in its watery grave more than 2 miles beneath the storm-tossed North Atlantic seas.
But we all intend to discover the Titanic. Why was it going through iceberg-infested waters
at 22.5 knots.
Search is being financed by Texas oil man Jack Grimm, a daring investor, well known for backing adventurous and difficult expeditions.
And that's one of the answers that we hope to find when we reach the Titanic.
It's a big, dark ocean. The uncertainty, if you take
Technological and scientific activities will be coordinated by Dr. William Ryan from Columbia University's Lamont Doherty Geological Observatory.
Circle that radius, the difference of those positions, you have a real piece of real estate the size of Rhode Island.
And of course, where the Titanic is and what's left of it is a great mystery. And if Mike Harris and Mr. Grimm and their colleagues can solve that riddle, it will certainly be a magnificent thing to accomplish. And I'm sure that everyone connected with the Explorers Club is anxious to cooperate in some small way. And good luck to you, Mike, and good luck to you, Mr. Grimm, and so long until tomorrow.
On July 7th, 1980, a 39-member crew assembles at the Tracor Marine Shipyard at Port Everglades, Florida, in preparation for an historic voyage. Using the most advanced oceanographic equipment available, they will scour the ocean floor in an area 300 miles southeast of Cape Race, Newfoundland. Somewhere 13,000 feet below, in the dark, icy waters, they hope to locate and photograph the wreck of the unsinkable Titanic. With all gear and personnel loaded on board and the technical equipment fully operational, HJW Fay makes preparations to sail.
Okay, Chief, we're all set to go.
It's the beginning of an unprecedented and ironic voyage into history. 39 men, aided by the most advanced technology that science has available, setting out to unlock the mysteries of a glorious old ocean liner once thought to be indestructible. On that chaotic and terrible night in April of 1912, a dream was suddenly transformed into a nightmare. Overconfidence and arrogant pride were swallowed up by the relentless dark sea. And now, in the quiet and solemn heat of a Florida night, everyone aboard the research vessel Fay is careful not to whisper any claims of being unsinkable.
Have a good trip. Good luck. Don't hit any icebergs.
Thanks.
Steady. Steady.
The research vessel Fay departed Bermuda on July 26 and set course for the North Atlantic according to the coordinates given by the Titanic's last SOS. The luxury liner was sinking somewhere in this area, more than 300 miles south of Newfoundland and east of Nova Scotia. Now, it'll take nearly 3.5 days to reach the site. Time for each person to reflect on the great adventure ahead.
Got 890 miles to go, and the course is 052, and we're going to have a nice, smooth ride to get there.
No waves or anything, right? Just as smooth as can be.
Perfect weather. We don't go to sea on this ship in anything except good weather.
We ought to get there Wednesday morning, I think, right?
6, 8 o'clock in the morning.
Let's go get her.
Very good, sir.
We're gonna find the Titanic in her cold and lonely grave. Yes, we'll find the Titanic with the cowards and the brave. We've all been told the story of the tragedy and glory of that great ship Titanic at the bottom of the sea.
Norm, why did you decide you wanted to captain the Fay to go find the Titanic?
Well, the regular captain wasn't available, and I knew the ship. I know the ship as well as anybody, so I figured I'd better take it myself.
You don't care anything at all about actually being here to find the Titanic?
Maybe a little bit.
The place
at which Titanic thought it was at the time it sent out its SOS signal is right here at this spot we've labeled Site 1.
Let's put it, we got one
some
bill.
kind of a marker on there. She was headed in this way, ran into the ice pack that was about in here somewhere. The next nearest ship was the Californian, which was headed in pretty much the same direction and was ahead of Titanic. When she got to the ice along about 10 o'clock at night, her company policy was that they would stop and just wait it out. And so she stopped, and it was while she was stopped that Titanic came in and
hit the ice.
Yeah. Some people think that people on the Titanic could see the Californian, in which case one of these two positions is in error because they're too far apart for that in any realistic way. So the Titanic could conceivably have been up as far north as here if the Californian's position was right.
Or if in fact we find the Titanic here where she thought she was, then in fact the Californian has to be down here.
Either that or it exonerates Captain Lord of the Californian, who claimed that he was too far away to have been any use. That's just one of the arguments that will resurface, I presume.
And we hope we'll be able to clear that up.
Approaching the site historically considered to be the location of the Titanic's last coordinates, the researchers launch a series of 3 transponders. They are dropped into the ocean at 5-mile intervals in a triangular pattern around the site. Once in position on the ocean floor, the transponders will serve as constant reference points for the search operation, as signals are sent out from the ship at regular intervals and then bounce back. This will allow the scientists to pinpoint precise locations of objects thought to be the Titanic.
Lower this slowly. Lower this slowly. Now, watch your sink.
There she goes.
Let's hope this is not another disaster at sea. My God, it's being attacked by a shark. Hey, a fish is nibbling at the line. That's what's wrong. It's thinking. There it goes. Goodbye. Down it goes. Now, there's the final. One more success.
As we came into the area, we headed north. The terrain was fairly smooth, and then we came across the sharp canyon that marks the southern part of the area, and continued to steam north. You can see that the topography is somewhat rough, and at this point we began launching a transponder. You can see the signal calling the transponder is this mark along in here. The transponder is now on its way down, and we'll have our first really fixed reference point in the area based on that transponder.
In this animation, a signal is sent out by the ship's echo sounder and then bounced back by the transponders. A device towed out of the ship interprets the returning signal and then transmits the information to computers on board for analysis by the scientific team. Next, the crew launches the repaired bluefish. A large yellow fin has been attached to the top with a magnetometer secured to the center. This device will measure fluctuations in the Earth's magnetic field and pinpoint any unusual large metallic objects.
Reg, this is the lab. Will you come right to course 245?
Roger that. Come right to 245.
Give me port ahead 150 RPM, 150 RPM.
Port engine ahead 150 RPM.
You can see side scan signal all the way out, right out to 4 seconds on the port side and starboard side. And this is the sub-bottom, 4.5 kilohertz that looks down. And this little blip right in here is the bottom. And Bob's been flying just a little under half a second.
Initial data indicates that the ocean bottom is hard. And that's good news for the research team. There had been a worry that the Titanic might be covered by thick silt or buried in deep mud.
So there appears to be no penetration. If we were in a place where the bottom was as soft and soupy as we've been led to believe, we ought to see more penetration than that.
So you think it's a nice hard bottom?
Yeah.
The Titanic should be sitting on the bottom and not sunk down in silt and mud and that sort of thing.
Yeah, acoustically it's a hard bottom.
The side scan sonar on the Bluefish emits a pulse that literally paints a computerized two-dimensional acoustic image of the ocean floor. Coupled with the magnetic profiles created by the magnetometer readings, the images can easily detect the outlines of an object as large as the Titanic's sunken hull, and even reveal details of the superstructure. Scientists will use this information to piece together a mosaic composite of the wreck, verifying that it is indeed the Titanic.
Transponders, the fish right now is interrogating them and we're getting replies. We've passed this one a while back. In fact, we just have passed this. The ship is located here. In about another half hour, at about 8:30, we should be passing the historical site of the Titanic with the fish. And in fact, we will cover the actual location of where it may have gone down during that time. That might be pretty exciting.
Yeah, and then the plan will be, of course, if we don't find it, then we'll go on up here another 3 miles, turn back and make a heading and come back and cover it on another time, right?
We'll cover it another time. We'll overlap our beams each time so we make sure that we're not missing any particular part.
Okay, Mike, I tried to approach the problem using a very elementary...
In reviewing the side scan sonar data, Dr. Ellen Herron discovers what she considers to be an object of high probability. Has a size and shape that definitely warrants further investigation.
Carpathia and the survivors that was given by the Mount Temple early the next morning. Now, this fixes the navigation fixes that were given by both the Titanic and the Mount Temple, you can assume, have at least a 5-mile radius of confidence. And what I did was I first drew circles with a 5-mile and then with an 8-mile radius around those two positions. Where they intersect ought to be the most probable area where the Titanic could have gone down, somewhere between where she issued the CQD and where the survivors were sighted at the first dawn sighting the next morning.
So it's an area approximately, what, 10 miles long by 6 or 8 miles wide?
And that's correct.
3.3 north, 38.8 west, heading right this way. I don't know, Chuck. You got some small problems. Got a hurricane heading this way and a gale heading this way. I don't know what's going to hit us first. That really sounds great, doesn't it? Charming, just charming.
Generally a southward flow for these subsidiary canyons, but in the center of the area and in one of the very high probability areas for the actual Titanic location, there was a feature that seemed to be more east-west trending than any other feature, and it just didn't seem to fit in with what we understood was the geology of the area.
Could something be blocking that? Would that cause that, or what would you suspect?
Well, that's what I wondered, and we went back. We also, from our first crossing of the feature with the deep tow system had detected a reasonable shadow and some kind of a strong signal from this area. So we went back with the 2-second sweep, and finally with the 1-second sweep. We really gave this quite a bit of coverage, and each time we got a stronger shadow, and the amplitudes of the feature looked to be quite reasonable.
That's our little
For
banana.
a possible target, right, Chiquita banana.
Ellen, we've been through hundreds of square miles of side scan records, but we haven't seen an object like this where we really have a shadow. What do you think causes something like that?
The fish is over here, and the shadow starts here and ends here. The dimensions of this shadow are such that it requires a relief of about Titanic.
Yeah, this size seems to be the right size for a Titanic and width.
Well, this would be the length of the Titanic, and then the height, whether it's the beam or the keel to deck, would create a shadow of about this order of magnitude.
Ellen, then what you're saying is that we know the height of the fish, and measuring the length of the shadow, then you can figure out the height of the object that makes that particular shadow.
That's right. It's just simple elementary geometry.
Yeah.
And in this case, the shadow that we saw is of the right length to reflect an object that has a relief on that would be the height or the beam of the Titanic.
Two problems. One is a gale center coming north of us that we've been experiencing for the last couple of days. Two systems. This is the third one in about a week. Unfortunately, this is going to pass about 120 miles closer than the last two.
Thought we were supposed to have good weather today.
We should have had a break today.
Yeah.
This gale center is...
What's the barometer doing?
She's dropping now, so it's getting closer.
Yeah. What good news have you got?
The hurricane's not here yet. That's the good news.
Hurricane?
Hurricane, yes, sir.
Hurricane.
Unfortunately, Hurricane Bonnie is located down here, and she's heading north-northwest to pass close to us. It will be here in this area about 2.5 days.
2.5 days, huh?
Yeah.
Bill, we're in big trouble.
Well, what's the effect of this linking up with this weather pattern over here? Okay. What's it going to do to us as from now?
What's happening now, the hurricane has absolutely no effect on us whatsoever.
Yeah.
The gale coming north of us will leave us in the wake of the gale about 48 hours of nasty weather, at which time the hurricane will pick up where he left off. And I can see a week.
So we're whacked out here for a week.
I'd say so, yeah.
I got to get the camera package in. Tell Spees right away to get the damn side scan up, and let's get the camera down, see what we got. We looked at it before, we had 100 millivolts.
All right.
No, we heard 100 millivolts, that's not true. We had, Jim, what were the numbers?
I think there were like 20 to 50 millivolts coming into this thing.
That's right.
That's what we could see here because it's full gain on this thing. We were able to get, a division or two.
Right. What's the matter with it? Look, just low signal level.
Very low signal level.
It
appears that we have something operational by the sound of it.
Yeah.
But the signal is a factor of 100 or 500 lower than it was the last time we played this game.
Something more leaking to the bottom?
Not likely. I think all of a sudden you hear a snap and a crackle and nothing.
Yeah, everything's behaving very well.
But it's usable like this. It's just a little mysterious. So if we pass over some metal, it'll still register, or what? I don't think we've gotten to that stage yet. But we'll have a computer program in 45 minutes that'll plot the thing, and then we'll be able to see. Okay.
That'll have left 45 minutes.
That's effectively right. We'll be able to see if the magnetic field varies in a nice orderly manner when we start to lower the magnetometer towards the bottom.
The jerry-rigged magnetometer is placed in a silver pressurized container. To give the lightweight device enough stability, it's encased in a large metal weight appropriately dubbed the yellow pig. Hopefully this added bulk will allow the makeshift instrument to safely ride out the savage currents below.
Now, let the strain go. Yep. And let it stop rolling for a minute here. Down on the main. Up on the jib. Level right there. Hold it. Okay. Ready, John? Ready? Okay. Up gently on the wind. Good fellas. Hold it.
The search goes on, while the exhausted crew maintains a desperate night vigil. With the camera sled unable to descend, the very last hope for discovery lies with the makeshift magnetometer. Suddenly, the magnetometer signal fails. The final chance for success is gone. Outside, the powerful sea continues to batter the ship unmercifully. Once again, triumphant over the technological presumptions of mere mortal man. The Titanic, an engineering masterpiece. In her time, she represented the sum of man's technological genius. Now, at the bottom of a dark, forbidding sea, she is tenaciously protected by the very force that put her there. Engulfed in a haze of mystery and speculation, she resides seductively just beyond our grasp. But that's soon to change. Let's examine the accomplishments of Titanic 1980. When cross-checking detailed contour charts, Dr. Ellen Herron discovered an unusual target. That target was located here. The revolutionary side-scan sonar developed by James Corsalis revealed a target with the same basic proportions as the Titanic, also at this location. Now, according to established fact, the Titanic struck an iceberg here and drifted to the northeast, putting the historical site of the sinking here, the very same spot. So all the evidence seems to point to this specific area. It's the precise location of the unsinkable Titanic. Well, armed this time with the certainty of exact coordinates and the versatile capabilities of the deep submersible Illuminaut, the expedition team will return to the North Atlantic in the summer of 1981. And there, the intrepid adventurers will descend to the ocean floor and finally touch the incredible Titanic.
Hello, folks. I'm James Drury. I'm about to leave on the most exciting adventure of my life so far. The second Grim Harris expedition to locate and photograph the Titanic in the North Atlantic.
We sailed June 28th from Massachusetts aboard the Texas A&M research vessel, the Gyre. There were 37 people aboard, 31 in the scientific party, including our film unit, and 6 in the ship's crew. Everything looks routine, but nothing ever is on a modern ocean research vessel. The most valuable and precious thing is time. The Gyre had come into port to change the wire, the coaxial cable 25,000 feet long, that is our lifeline of discovery from the ship to our underwater detection devices and our video camera vehicle. The scientific team already aboard would be engaged in the search for the Titanic. But first we had to hitchhike with them while they completed one segment of the ongoing Pebble project, which is a worldwide search for deep ocean bottom free from current and sediment drift. The second red dot is the Pebble site, located here, and the third is the Titanic location. The time was well spent for those of us who had not been involved in undersea exploration before. And all of us had our chance to fly the deep tow vehicle at 10 to 12,000 foot depths and take still pictures of the ocean bottom.
I remember the first time I saw the Gyre. She was in dry dock in Houston for repairs. With her screws and rudder 10 feet off the floor, she was about as unglamorous a ship as I'd ever seen. 180 feet of ugly brute strength. I fell in love with it right off. This is a very special trip with some very special people. It's not your average Staten Island ferry boat ride. You can see it in the brightness and the quickness of everyone aboard. They know that they have the best chance yet of solving the mystery of the Titanic. And they are at play in the fields of the Lord with the best set of electric trains anybody ever had. You'll meet all of those aboard as we go along, but I need to say a word about some of them. To begin with, this is a very young group. Youth is not a time of life, it's a state of mind. Youth means a temperamental predominance of courage over timidity, of the appetite for adventure over the love of ease. Nobody grows old by merely living a number of years. We grow old when we have more old memories than young dreams. Dr. Fred Speece, Scripps Institution of Oceanography. It's been worth the whole trip to get to know this genial, gentle, brilliant man. Dr. Bill Ryan, Lamont Doherty Geological Observatory. Friendly, interested, curious, doer of impossible things. They and their staffs are the best in their field. Captain Don Armand of the research vessel Gyre, Texas A&M University. Man of the sea, in love with the sea. Mike Harris, expedition leader, dreamer with a dream. A man with the patience of Job and the guts to find a way to make the dream come true. A special quiet hero, Mark Orson, graduate student at Scripps. A young genius who could fabricate a part that couldn't be fabricated and that was not even in his field. Dr. Carl Lowenstein, computer expert who knows everything. And of course, Jack Grimm, a scientist, a seeker, a gambler, a self-made man in every way. He says he never grew up. He says he's looking for the Titanic because he wants to find it. He says he's at war with the North Atlantic, and I believe him. He makes it all possible. It's a better world because he lives in it.
We have 14 sonar targets that were found.
While we are underway between locations, we have time to reflect on, discuss, and illustrate our mission and learn. Always learn.
Area that came up with 14 different sonar targets, of which 6 are high priority, and out of those 6 there are 3 they seem to stand out as exceptional. Those are targets 1, 10, and 13.
What we do first would be get in there and establish our navigational base.
I'll put the
So
transponders.
the transponders will be in there, and then when we get the magnetic signature, we'll have a place we can return to for pictures.
How does the magnetometer work physically? Does it send a signal to the transponder and then to the ship, or does it send a signal directly to the ship?
Well, the magnetometer is mounted on the same fish as the side-looking sonar and everything, and that fish does send signals out to the transponders, and they come back to the tow body and up the wire to the ship.
How do you differentiate when you find a piece of metal? That's something I don't know.
Well, a piece of iron will distort the Earth's magnetic field, change its strength. So all you're doing with the magnetometer is continuously measuring the strength of the Earth's magnetic field from one point to another.
You then see that on the readouts in the lab?
That's right, yes, in real time in the lab.
So when you see an anomaly there, you will know?
We sure will.
At last, we are in the Titanic area and launching our first transponder. This is much more complex than the recovery because we must launch at the exact time that our radio communications with the bridge tells us we have an exact satellite fix of the ship relative to its position on the surface. So we will know where the transponders are relative to the ship and the deep tow on the bottom. The exact amount of cable between the ship and the deep tow is monitored as well, giving us one more point of reference. Each time a transponder is launched, the process is repeated. We are literally bugging the ocean floor, and we have to know where the bugs are.
Okay, you guys, they cannot verify
It is on either side once you get past the impression of the canyon wall. Both places, very flat from there on out.
Yeah, we just went over, we're going over really that first target, number 6, which wasn't a very high priority. And the magnetometer didn't show anything, so...
There was no magnetic anomalies.
This one doesn't look like it's a Titanic.
That's right, and the fish flew within a few hundred feet of it, so it appears to eliminate it as far as it being a metallic object or the hull of a vessel.
Yeah, but number 13, that's the one we're looking at next.
Number 13 is coming up next in a couple of hours.
13
right now.
Yeah, it's the sonar target that we had from last summer, and this is really one of our number 1 priority targets, and that's it right there.
These would be shadows, right, Mike?
Yeah, that should represent, if this is the Titanic, that black mark should represent the Titanic, and this shadow is supposedly the outline of that particular object. So
what's the scale here on this on this particular thing we're looking at?
Well, this is roughly 900 feet long, and the Titanic was 882. So it's pretty close, and it shows a relief, I think, of 100 and some feet.
It's about 400 feet per square here, something like that.
Yeah, I guess so. So we're chugging along down this canyon, and in the next 5 or 10 minutes, we're going to be by this with the magnetometer, and it should show up over there on a scale if that's if there's any metal associated with this particular target.
Vast difference from last year, I guess, when you didn't know whether it was metal or not.
Yeah, we didn't have a magnetometer yet.
We have just passed Target 13, one of our top priority targets, and there has been no change in the Earth's magnetic field. 13 is a dry hole, so we're heading up the line. We're mainly in the vicinity of a canyon on the ocean floor, 15 miles long and 2 miles wide, that the scientists named Titanic Canyon. Since we can't take pictures of the bottom and operate the magnetometer at the same time, the decision is made to take pictures in hopes of finding some debris. The days race by, and it feels like sitting in traffic in a New York taxi with a meter running. Deep Tow carries 3 35mm cameras in pressure-proof housings that each have a 3,200 frame magazine. In order to develop our film, we have to recover Deep Tow, unload and reload the magazines, and make another launch. We are using a special fast film designed by Kodak for use in limited light, and it is custom packed for the underwater cameras.
What do we got?
Well, this appears to be a possible fossilized vertebrate. See the little vertebrae sticking out back here. Then there's also, someone suggested this might be a skull here. It's certainly something circular. It may be an eye socket. This one is a very interesting photograph.
As we examine the prints, one thing becomes clear, if it wasn't clear already. The technology of Deep Tow is great. We can photograph the Titanic in minute detail once we find it. We are hoping for man-made objects, but find very few. A bucket, a pulley with a hook, a few fish. Over 3,000 merchant ships were sunk in the North Atlantic during World War II by submarines, and we found very little evidence of anything. The ocean is so vast, and we have so little time. Mark Orson and Anita Brosius are putting the final touches on the pressure-proof housings for the color video camera and recorder. Color video has been taken at much greater depths through the porthole of a bathysphere. But as far as we know, no one has ever used color video in an unmanned vehicle at 12,000 feet before, traveling at 6 feet off the bottom. It will prove to be the most exciting venture of the entire expedition. We are launching the video camera sled for its first, last, and only run of the trip. This particular configuration has never been used before, and Dr. Bill Ryan looks on as anxiously as any expectant father in a hospital waiting room. The plan is to make a run from the position where the lifeboats were recovered, north to the CQD or last SOS position of the Titanic, using a constantly shining light as opposed to the strobe light on the Deep Tow. These lights, like a set of truck headlights, are encased in pressure-proof housings along with their batteries and will give better illumination than we have had so far. This is a last-ditch attempt to recover some physical evidence of the Titanic, at least for this trip, and everyone knows it and says a silent prayer. Everyone who could gathered in the lounge to watch the video, like a bunch of kids around a Christmas tree when the magic moment comes to open presents. What we were seeing was greeted with great enthusiasm, even though the first few frames were nothing but flat bottom and a few fish and rocks.
Look at that! Another good.
Well, Bill, that's what we need the shock cord for, right?
Yes.
I'm really impressed with the way Bill this.
Oh, look, that was something moved out. Yeah.
What was that? It was dust.
No, it didn't hit the bottom.
Something stirred up.
That's something stirred up and split. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's what it was.
Nope, there's another fish. Upper right, see it? part. Brain lock of some kind.
It's a nice shot there, isn't it? Oh, there's something there. Look! Oh,
And there it was. A few frames of videotape we would look at again and again. Its immediate impression caught the eye and froze the mind. A propeller blade from a large ship. But the scientific method is cautious by definition, and much discussion, pro and con, took place.
Depending on the angle, the top would look sharp, though, wouldn't it? It has to look sharp, or else it's not propeller.
I thought it looked more like one single bladed propeller.
Yes.
Because the rear blades are three real propellers. The outboard propellers are three bladed propellers. It looks like the blades are attached separately in the drawings I looked at. And it seems conceivable.
It looks like it's just one blade.
Right. It looks like, to me, like it's more like the blade's laying more flat on the bottom. I guess if you're coming over the front edge this way, it looks like it's sharp this way. We're running along the leading edge of the blade, rather than sticking up at some angle of being buried in the rock.
Jack, let's look at it again. Okay. There it is, man. Look at that. See the curvature of it? Now watch.
The consensus ruled out Mark Olson's theory that the blade was laying flat on the bottom. Painstaking measurements estimate the blade to be between 8 and 10 feet tall and place it 16 to 20 feet off the bottom. As we look at this artist's rendering of the hull, we see the course the camera sled probably took as it passed over the blade. All the way back to Boston, the debate continued. Whether the blade we see in this still picture taken from the videotape is the right size and shape to belong to the Titanic. We could not know and did not know until we got home to Texas that on Jack Grimm's desk was this picture of two commercial divers from Scotland, Mr. Simon Martin and Mr. Alec Crawford, with a propeller blade from the Oceanic. This ship, of similar vintage and size in relation to the Titanic, was wrecked off the coast of Scotland 60 years ago, and the similarities between the two pictures speak for themselves. So much so that plans are underway to reactivate the Illuminaut, Reynolds Aluminum's deep-diving submarine, and return once more to the old gray Widowmaker and dive on the Titanic.